I really wanted to talk about Game Over, but I got a little bit distracted. So instead, we're gonna talk about the failures of Newcomer the Forest, Lucius fanfic that I wrote, in, was it 2023 or 2024? Newcomers of the Forest. It is still available online, by the way, guys. Okay, it looks like I first published it in May 21st, 2023 on Wattpad. But apparently on AO3, I published it on 2023, June 2nd. But it was basically a Lucius AU, where Lucius never got picked up by MacGuffin. He is still in his psych ward, and instead he got picked up by a completely different person, which is Carly. Technically, it should be a parental figure that's going to come pick up you from the psych ward, not like your older sister who is barely above the age of 18. 15 years old, by the way. 15 years old. I just thought it was a very convenient plot, a part that could help bring their relationship closer, because most of the people who are in the Lucius fandom often find themselves making them like a sibling of Lucius, or a servant of Lucius, or a neighbor of Lucius, but not so much of, you know, being classmates or something like that. People wanted to make themselves seem closer to Lucius, and I was one of those people. It's also noteworthy that he already had parents in the games, so we couldn't really be a guardian for him. Obviously, we could have replaced MacGuffin's role. Not many of us did that. No, not many of us did that. It's mainly just fangirls and fanboys who had a romantic attraction to this underage character. And admittedly, when I was, like, a bit younger, I also liked him in that way too. But my feelings changed for that. I don't like Lucius in that way. Admittedly, people did age him up in their fan arts, but most of the fanfics out there are not like that, and it's usually like a servant and master relationship. If I had to explain Lucius to you, right? You know, he's the Antichrist, and Lucius won, he killed his entire family, but that ended up sending him to a psych ward, and then he started losing his supernatural demonic abilities because he was in the psych ward for so long and he wasn't killing anyone. But then he meets a nun and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go batshit crazy and attack you. And then they put him in a electric shock therapy, which only amplified his powers, and he destroyed the entire place and went out. Or sort of, yeah, he destroyed the entire place basically. And MacGuffin was the detective working on Lucius' case of all these mysterious death going on at his household. And then he found out, wait, it's actually the little boy who's doing this, but he's going to take care of the little boy because Satan threatened him. He appeared out of nowhere, and then he started begging on his knees, like, please don't kill me, I'll take care of your son then, please, please, please. And then MacGuffin comes for Lucius and takes care of him, and Lucius goes to take over the entire town. But in this AU, that doesn't happen. MacGuffin doesn't go to him. He probably unalived himself to not go see Lucius. And Lucius is stuck here, and the nun hasn't appeared. Instead, Carly has appeared. He still feels like being Daddy's little boy, so he wants to figure out how to make his powers come back to life. But usually that starts from killing someone, but he decided, I'm not gonna do that, because the people in this household are really kind to me. Yeah, that's basically what happened in Newcomers of the Forest. Except, there was this specific role player that I always roleplayed with in the Lucius Amino. By the way, I was in the Lucius Amino when Amino was still alive, and Amino was dead now. That I would always roleplay with him, and he would make the most amazing stories, sort of. He had a really interesting character. Right. I'll explain his character to you.
皆様ようこそお越しくださいました。ガッテン承知の助君を置いてえいこっちで遊ぼう One, two, three, four なんて承知の
His name was Rindle, and during his human life, he worked as a detective. Sort of. He was actually really into doing detective work, but he didn't get that far. Despite being so good at puzzles and such, he couldn't realize that his jealous classmate would have ended his life. But right after he died, he met an archangel named Gabriel, who would take his hand and bring him to heaven. He discussed that Rindle's job was now to sort out humans into heaven or hell, making his sole duty the angel of death, the one that would guide souls to the other side. However, he was tasked with another thing as well. He was tasked to keep a precious ring safe. A ring that belonged to a higher up, another archangel in the headquarters of heaven. He unfortunately didn't see the person who nabbed it right underneath his nose. Rindle loses his ability after mistakenly allowing Daemon to enter the headquarters. Daemon successfully steals a ring that comes from a high rank. It is still unknown why Daemon stole the ring, but rumor has it that it gave Daemon the ability to make him protect his master, named Leonel. Rindle was then returned to Earth in a human form with only 4 abilities: Regeneration, Memory Reading, Ambience Generator, and Lifebook. He went through life defenseless and in search of the ring. He met new people and became friends with almost everyone. That is how Rindle became a low-rank angel. Yeah, I really dig this guy. I really dig him. We knew each other before from a previous friend in the Lucius Amino who, sadly not with us anymore. That friend sort of created this new world for us to build on as well. Because of his, it's a lot to explain, and mainly you'll be seeing it in my new project called Blurry Lights. But basically the person who stole the ring underneath Rindle's nose was a character named Daemon. Daemon and his little Antichrist brother named Leonel. Yeah, you see where I'm going with this? You see where I'm going with this? Yep, we got a rivalry. We got a rival against Lucius. And it's 2 of them. It's 2 of them. Him and his butler. It's basically Ciel, Phantom Hive, and Sebastian Michaelis. Except Sebastian Michaelis is brown hair, has blue eyes, and Ciel's just Ciel and still a brat. Lucius finds an old dusty book that contains an amulet, a mention of an amulet that could amplify a user's abilities, especially one that's the Antichrist. You know, Diablo's Pendulum is what I call it. Wow. I didn't go through with it though. Right? I really didn't go through with it. I stopped at the point of introducing Rindle, the character, where Carly has a treehouse of her own and she meets Rindle in her treehouse, all injured and shit. And she decides to take him in. Takes a random man home, man. A random man. As an artist, I'm rather impatient. Very impatient to improvise that. So it's really hard for me to execute this in the way that I want it to be. Especially because I didn't have a clear vision plan for it. Mainly that this was all based on my roleplays, and the people I was roleplaying with aren't here anymore. I have a lot of history with the Lucius Amino that it is so personal. Blurry Lights is basically about what happened to me in the Lucius Amino, rather than my roleplays within it. It's of course gonna be more fictional, and you probably wouldn't be aware of what was gonna go on. It has nothing to do with Lucius, and it has more to do with the fact of how Lionel and Damon present themselves, and the friend that me and Rindle were connected with. I mean, I guess it wouldn't hurt to show you their character designs. You know, the characters I have for Blurry Lights. Now, bear in mind, these are concept designs. They're not official, except maybe the gacha ones would definitely be official. So, yeah. These are my 6 protagonists for Blurry Lights. If you haven't noticed who I'm drawing right now, it is in fact the character Carolyn for an animation meme / trend that's going on right now called looping rooms. Of course, in my next video, I do plan to go back to talk about Game Over in particular. It would be my most cringiest development of the previous character Carly. But that will require me to do some illustrations related to Game Over. Alright. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye!